Warning, this video is going to be complete and utter chaos, and the edits might not be so great, but like and subscribe and stay tuned for more because it will be worth it, even with all of the chaos. So I watched a little bit of it, we watched a little bit of it, and my head looked ginormous in comparison. It's not actually, and for a lot of the video, it's side view, it's like this. I don't look the best with side view, I mean, just there we go. Side view. Well, I think it used to look better. Side view. Let's see.
I look good at all angles.
Oh my god. That's slowly on you. I'm like modeling you off. $50. Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So my head looks huge in comparison, but it's not. See, back here. Right here. It's not.
See, that's about right, yeah.
No, it's in this big ass chair behind me. So yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna put this in the video, but I'm going to. But this is after we watch the video. So, well, some of the video. We're still recording. Okay, cool. It's such an awkward fucking video. Oh my god. Stop recording.
Oh my god.
I know. It can be quite
Oh, you think I'm a junkie?
I really don't think that's an appropriate term.
Oh my god.
Don't worry about it. I get it.
Oh my god.
You may not think you have a problem now.
Hi. Welcome to Bipolar Afterthoughts. I'm Liam Rosick, and I have a guest.
Connery.
And we've known each other for 6 or 7 years now. So I wanted to do a tell-all, and I thought what better way to do that than have someone who's been in my life for a substantial amount of time. I also have COVID, by the way, and he has kind of a crappy memory, so this should be great. But I just want to know, what was your initial impression of me? And I'm not talking way back when in like 6th grade. I'm talking when you actually got to know me, when you came to my parents' house.
There was a bit of a mix. There was a curiosity and some kind of interest when we first met.
Sexy.
But I remember you being very just friendly and outgoing.
For the most part, anyway, at first. And at that time, the people I surrounded myself with, let's call them Kevin, Alyssa, and Bella. Those were my main people, and people you came to interact with quite a bit, separately for the most part, except for really Alyssa and Kevin. You knew them with me pretty well. But, so at first I was outgoing and, silly, and you were smoking weed a lot at that time. You were getting into it. And I was kind of getting out of it at the same time, but I would still smoke with you on occasion. But anyway, as things progressed, how did you find me to be, let's say, a couple months in? How about that?
Good question.
Here's the crappy memory part.
I mean, I'm not going to remember a month to month.
Well, it's just, once you started to get to me better and you got to see the inside of that house, really, and the dynamic between me and Kevin and me and Alyssa.
I remember liking hanging out with you, and it was through Bella that we even started to really hang out.
Yeah, that's funny actually, because Bella at the time was my good friend of about, I think, 10 years, and I didn't know him at all, and I even warned him against Bella, because I just thought, there's something about him. He should be he should be warned. And it wasn't like I said Bella was awful or horrible or anything like that. I just gave him her MO. And he didn't know me at all, so of course he didn't, take my advice. But anyway, that it's very interesting and funny how that was kind of our first encounter. I was like, oh, hey, by the way, just to let you know, don't. And you're just like, okay, cool. And then fast forward.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, fast forward 4 months ish, and there we go. We started hanging out, and yeah, I remember thinking you were really kind of a dork, but in a good way. We would have lots of interesting conversations about what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to die? Are there UFOs out there? Are there aliens? What could be hidden under the sea? We just had so many interesting conversations throughout most of that time period. Now, Trey, who is my half brother. I don't call him my half brother. He's Trey. And I'm using his real fucking name. But what do you remember about? What was your first memory really regarding Trey and I?
Fights. Like, there's constant tension that was obviously there.
Right. And I think it was like the third time you came over to my house.
There was a bit of a screaming match through a window. Yeah.
I remember that I don't remember what it was about because it was always something, but he came up to the window to kind of threaten me, call me a name or something, and I think I even looked at you and I was like, one sec. And I went to the window and I just started screaming, and he screamed back and I screamed back and went back and forth for about, I don't know, 2 minutes, and I sat back down and I was like, sorry about that. Like,
it was even less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I acted like it was completely normal.
Yeah.
And I just went back to being normal.
Pretty much like, okay, that's new.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, to me, that was normal. It was normal to be totally fine and then hear threats and be like on guard and argue and then just go back to being me. Which is not healthy, of course. And
luckily when you got out of it though, that's when you realized that wasn't normal.
Yes. Because at the time, that there used to be, I'm sure maybe you can recall a couple of fights between my mom and my dad or Trey, and it would be screaming matches and just by that point I had to barricade my door. Because there wasn't any lock, and the bed was right there, and I would barricade it with items so that there was no way they could push through. And luckily enough, if I stayed out of the fight a lot of time, it didn't involve me. Now Kevin, who is my ex-husband, actually, he could attest to a lot more of what went down in the house than, in fact, you could.
So I was only there every weekend to every other weekend, about sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah. I think we could tell, though, from the start, or almost the start, that you and I, that we had a unique connection, really. We didn't really know what to call it or what it was, but we were drawn to each other, to have each other in our lives.
I guess that's the certain interest that I was
referring to.
mentioning.
Yeah. Well, then, at the same time, I don't know if you knew this, but when you were hanging out with me and Melissa and Kevin, well, why don't you talk about Kevin a little bit? What did you remember about Kevin in that house?
For the most part, when I was around, he was generally quiet. But he was quite a toxic person from what I recall, just about everything that I saw him do or heard of him doing.
Yeah, either probably from me or Alyssa or...
And of course, it wasn't all bad that I heard of him, but when I got into the house, it was generally that.
He was very quiet around other people. Most of the time, he couldn't hide it from Alyssa so much because she moved in, and also could not for Bella as well because we were friends for so long and he dated Bella, but way back when. But hell, we've all dated Bella. Anyway, wait, that makes her sound like a that's not what I'm saying. Anyway, ooh, sorry Bella if you watch this video, but he cheated all the time, lied all the time, and that made arguments between him and I, and it got physical a lot, and I started it sometimes, he started it a lot of times. We were both just very toxic for one another, and we had a lot of growing up to do, and of course my role models for a relationship were not healthy at all. But, you know, after a time, I think about 6 months in, you started to get distanced from me. Maybe didn't word that right, but yeah, and you referred to kind of like a darkness, a feeling anyway. And it was only until later that you realized that darkness, I mean, how did, you want to talk about that?
First, I was attributing it to you specifically, but that changed once you got out of the house, and then we started to
reconnect after about 4 months or something like that.
You'll not bring your darkness into this house.
You are the darkness. You have always been the darkness.
Yeah, and going back though, did you know that during the time you were hanging out with me and Alyssa and Kevin, me and Alyssa were drinking and doing pills? Did you know that about us? I mean, we weren't like, obviously, while you were there, exactly.
There were comments, but not as obvious as you really have said exactly.
Right. And it wasn't like out of control or anything, but it was still not good or great.
Yeah. Heard more stories later.
Yeah, because I didn't want to drag you into it, because even with the mentality I had as, you know, like an 18-year-old, I was like, no, I'm not gonna impose this onto someone else who might want to do it or whatever. I didn't know. So,
and at the time I might have, so it was
yeah,
better that I would have stayed away from that.
Right, and I did. Yeah, Alyssa actually one time wanted to include you in it, and I was like, no, let's not do that. Let's not. I wouldn't even let Kevin do it. So, I mean, there was one time he did, it pissed me off, but, you know, I can only be so much of a hypocrite, but still, I was just like, no, don't make the same mistakes I'm making. I could tell they were mistakes while I was doing them, even though I also couldn't see that they were bad. It's very weird, because, yeah, the fights, they were just normal fights. I want to make that clear. That happened in the house between my mom and my dad or Trey. It was windows breaking sometimes. It was throwing things around. It was threats to kill. It was shoving, calling the cops, all of that kind of stuff. And I had a knife under my pillow every night to go to bed because I did not feel safe in that house whatsoever. And prior to meeting you, there were a lot more instances where I actually got involved or I was dragged in, and I sustained a lot of physical injuries due to it. And
So nice to finally meet you. Smell you later.
I don't pretend to know the